What if I told you that one of the biggest reasons adults over 60 lose confidence in their bodies is not that they stop walking, but that walking alone quietly stops training some of the exact muscles and movement patterns that keep them independent? I have seen this more times than I can count. A person still takes a daily walk, still tries to stay active, and yet rising from a chair feels harder, turning feels less steady, and one awkward step suddenly feels more dangerous than it used to. That is exactly why this video matters. Today, I want to show you 5 simple chair exercises that may do more for real-life strength after 60 than walking by itself, especially when it comes to standing up safely, protecting your balance, and keeping the kind of lower body control that helps you stay out of the hospital and in charge of your own life. And the first one is often the earliest warning sign people miss. Before we dive in, if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you hit that button and turn on the bell so you never miss another health tip made just for you. If you enjoy this video, type 1 in the comments. If not, type 0 to let me know how I can make better content for you. Why walking alone stops being enough. After 60. Why does walking alone stop being enough after 60, even for people who try to stay active every single day? Because walking is helpful, but it does not fully train the exact kinds of strength your body starts depending on more with age. In my experience, many older adults believe that as long as they still take a daily walk, they are covering all the basics. But that is not always how the body works. After 60. Walking is excellent for circulation, mood, joint mobility, and general cardiovascular health. I would never tell an older adult to stop walking if they can do it safely, but walking is mostly a forward motion activity. It does not always challenge the muscles and movement patterns that protect you when you rise from a chair, lower yourself onto a toilet, steady your body during a turn, or catch yourself when you lose balance for a split second. And those are often the moments that matter most in real life. That is where many people get caught off guard. They can still walk around the block, but they notice something else changing quietly in the background. Getting out of a soft chair takes more effort. Standing up after dinner feels slower. The legs do not feel as reliable during the first few steps. Going down into a seated position is less controlled than it used to be. Those changes may seem small, but they are often early signs that leg strength, hip control, core stability, and balance reactions are slipping. This is also why some older adults say, "I walk every day, so I don't understand why I still feel weak." The answer is that walking and functional strength are not exactly the same thing. Walking helps you keep moving, but it may not be enough to maintain the power needed to stand up smoothly, the trunk control needed to avoid a stumble, or the lower body strength needed to protect your independence over the next 5 to 10 years. And that is the part many people do not hear often enough. After 60, the greatest threat is not always losing the ability to walk long distances. Sometimes it is losing confidence in ordinary movements you once did without thinking: standing, turning, reaching, lowering, recovering. If those begin to feel shaky, many older adults start avoiding activity, and that is when decline can speed up. That is why chair exercises matter so much. They meet the body where it is. They train the exact abilities that walking alone may miss. And for many seniors, they are one of the safest, most realistic ways to rebuild strength before weakness turns into limitation. Exercise number 1, chair sit to stand, the independence test. Most seniors feel before they notice it. One of the earliest changes I see in adults over 60 is not always pain, it is hesitation. A person who used to stand up without thinking suddenly rocks forward first, pushes hard through the armrests, or needs a second try before the body fully rises. That moment may seem small, but medically it tells us a great deal. The sit-to-stand movement is one of the clearest everyday tests of leg strength, hip power, balance, coordination, and confidence. If this movement starts getting harder, daily life usually starts feeling harder right behind it. What makes this exercise so valuable is that it trains a motion you already use all day long. Getting up from the sofa, rising from the toilet, standing after a meal, getting out of a car, leaving a waiting room chair, all of these depend on the same basic skill. Walking helps endurance, yes, but this movement builds the strength that lets you rise safely and lower yourself with control. That is a very different kind of protection. To do it well, start with a sturdy chair that does not slide and is not too low or too soft. Sit near the front edge, not all the way back. Place both feet flat on the floor about hip-width apart with your knees bent and your toes pointing forward. Bring your feet slightly behind your knees rather than far out in front. That one adjustment often makes the movement much easier and safer. Sit tall first, then lean your chest forward just enough so your nose comes over your toes. From there, press firmly through your heels and the middle of your feet. Tighten your stomach gently and stand up in one smooth motion. Once you are fully upright, pause for a second, then lower yourself back down slowly with control instead of dropping into the chair. That lowering phase matters more than many people realize. It teaches the thighs and hips to absorb your body weight safely. If you can stand up but collapse back down, the muscles are not yet doing the full job. Start with 5 repetitions. If that feels manageable, work toward 8 to 10. Move slowly enough that you could stop at any point. That is how you know you are building control, not just using momentum. If you need your hands at first, that is perfectly fine. Light fingertip support on the chair or pushing gently from the armrests can help you begin. What I do not want is rushing, holding your breath, or letting the knees cave inward. Keep the chest proud, the knees tracking forward, and the movement steady. And once you begin to rebuild the strength to rise well, the next question becomes even more important. Can your body control the leg in motion just as safely when you step, turn, and climb? If you're still watching and finding these insights helpful, please comment number 1 below to let me know you're with me. Now let's move on to point number 2. Exercises number 2, seated knee lift with core brace for steadier steps and safer turns. There is a certain kind of unsteadiness that worries older adults more than they admit, and it often shows up not during a long walk, but in the small in-between moments. Lifting one leg to turn in the kitchen, stepping around the corner of the bed at night, getting the foot high enough to clear a curb, a stair, or the edge of a rug. When that motion becomes weaker or less controlled, the whole body begins to move with less confidence. That is why the seated knee lift with a gentle core brace is such an important exercise after 60. It looks simple, but it trains the exact connection between the hips, lower abdomen, and trunk that helps keep your steps steadier and your turns safer. Many older adults think balance begins at the feet. In reality, balance often starts higher up with how well the body can stabilize the middle while one leg moves. If the trunk wobbles every time the knee comes up, the movement becomes sloppy, the foot may drag, and the risk of catching yourself late during a turn goes up. This is especially important if you have noticed that stairs feel less smooth, your first few steps feel awkward after standing, or you sometimes feel as if your body is moving faster than your control. To perform this exercise well, sit near the front half of a firm chair with both feet flat on the floor. Lengthen your spine so you are not leaning back into the chair. Imagine a string gently lifting the top of your head toward the ceiling. Now place your hands lightly on the sides of the chair or across your lower abdomen. Before lifting the leg, gently tighten your midsection as though you are preparing for a light cough. Not a hard squeeze, not sucking in, just a quiet brace that makes the trunk feel steady. Then slowly lift one knee a few inches off the floor. Pause for a second at the top without leaning backward, then lower it with control. Repeat on the other side. The goal is not height, the goal is control. If you lift the knee high but your shoulders rock and your body twists, you are not really training the movement that protects you in daily life. Move slowly enough that you can feel the stomach, hip, and upper thigh working together. Start with 6 to 8 lifts per side. If that feels easy, build gradually to 10 or 12. Exhale as the knee comes up, inhale as it lowers, and keep both feet from slapping or dropping. If one side feels weaker, that is useful information, not failure. It often means that side needs more attention because it may be the side that gives you trouble when turning, climbing, or catching yourself. And once the hips and trunk begin working together better, the next weak link we need to address is often even lower down, in the ankles and feet where balance reactions either sharpen or quietly fade. If you're still watching and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 1 below to let me know you're here. Now let's Exercise number 3, seated heel-to-toe raise for ankles, balance, and that first step after standing. Sometimes the body gives you a warning long before a fall ever happens, and one of the quietest warnings is that first step after standing up. It may feel stiff, uncertain, or just not as smooth as it used to. Many adults over 60 describe it in different ways. Some say their feet feel slow to wake up. Others notice they need a moment to find their balance before walking. That is exactly why this seated heel-to-toe raise matters so much. It may look almost too simple to count, but it trains the ankles, calves, shins, and foot control that help you stay steadier when you rise, shift weight, and begin moving. This is especially useful for older adults who spend long periods sitting, feel a little unsteady when they first stand, or notice that balance seems worse when tired. Walking helps many parts of health, but it does not always restore the small, precise ankle reactions that help prevent a wobble from becoming a stumble. And after 60, those small reactions matter more than most people realize. To do the movement correctly, sit upright in a firm chair with both feet flat on the floor, about hip-width apart. Keep your back tall rather than leaning into the chair. Your knees should be bent comfortably, and your feet should be directly under them, not stretched too far forward. Start by lifting both heels off the floor while keeping the balls of your feet and toes down. Rise slowly, hold for a second, then lower the heels just as slowly. You should feel the calves and ankles working, not jerking. After that, keep the heels down and lift the front of your feet and toes towards your shins. Hold briefly, then lower with control. That is one full heel-to-toe cycle. Move in a slow rhythm. Up, pause, down, reset. Then toes up, pause, down, reset. Start with 8 to 10 cycles. If your legs tire easily, begin with 5. What matters most is clean movement, not speed. Avoid rocking your whole body backward to lift the toes. Avoid bouncing through the heels, and do not let the feet roll outward. You want the ankles doing the work, not momentum. If one side feels weaker or stiffer, pay attention to that. It often reflects the leg that feels less reliable during turning, stepping over objects, or regaining balance when rushed. You can even do one foot at a time if needed. Over time, this exercise can help the feet feel more responsive, the ankles more awake, and that first step after standing more secure. And once the ankles begin responding better, the next step is to connect that lower body control to a movement that builds rhythm, circulation, and safer walking strength from the chair itself. Exercise number 4, seated march with arm drive, the safer way to build walking strength from a chair. There are days when the body wants movement, but not impact, not risk, and certainly not one wrong step that leaves you sore or shaken. That is where the seated march with arm drive becomes far more valuable than it appears. For many adults over 60, this is one of the safest ways to rehearse the rhythm of walking without asking the joints, balance system, or lower back to do more than they are ready for. It helps wake up the hips, improve coordination, raise circulation, and build the kind of controlled endurance that makes everyday movement feel less tiring and less uncertain. What I like about this exercise is that it trains more than the legs. It teaches the body to work as a system. In normal walking, the arms and legs are supposed to move in coordination. When that pattern becomes weaker with age, steps can become shorter, slower, and less confident. Some older adults stop swinging their arms without realizing it. Others start shuffling slightly, especially when tired. That may not seem like much at first, but over time it can affect posture, stride, turning, and overall confidence with movement. This exercise gives you a chance to practice that walking pattern in a very controlled, low-risk way. Sit in a sturdy chair with your feet flat on the floor and your spine tall. Try not to lean back into the chair. Scoot slightly forward so your body is active and engaged. Bend your elbows to about 90 degrees as if you were preparing to walk naturally. Then begin lifting one knee at a time in a marching pattern. As the right knee lifts, bring the left arm forward. As the left knee lifts, bring the right arm forward. Keep the motion gentle and coordinated, not rushed. The goal is not to lift the knees as high as possible. The goal is to create a smooth, steady pattern that feels controlled from your chest all the way down to your feet. Breathe normally as you move. If you find yourself holding your breath, slow down. If your shoulders start creeping up toward your ears, relax them. If the trunk rocks too much from side to side, make the movement smaller until your core can stay more stable. Start with 20 seconds at an easy pace. Rest, then repeat once or twice. As your stamina improves, work toward 30 to 45 seconds. On days when energy is low, even a short round can help loosen the body and improve confidence before walking. This is an especially good exercise for people who feel stiff after sitting, avoid outdoor walking in bad weather, or want a safer starting point before returning to more upright activity. And once you can control that marching rhythm more comfortably. The next question is whether your body also knows how to bend and load safely without pushing strain into the lower back. Exercise number 5. Chair-assisted hip hinge from the seat edge, the move that protects your back and keeps you strong. A surprising number of back problems in older adults do not begin with something dramatic. They begin with an ordinary movement done in a tired, rushed, or awkward way, reaching down for a bag, leaning forward to put on shoes, picking something up from beside the chair, bending to grab laundry, a pet bowl, or a dropped remote. That is why the chair-assisted hip hinge from the seat edge is such a valuable exercise after 60. It teaches the body one of the most important movement patterns in daily life, how to bend safely from the hips instead of dumping stress into the lower back. Many people think they have a bad back when the real issue is that the hips have become weak, stiff, or poorly coordinated. When that happens, the lower back starts doing work it was never meant to do alone. Over time, that can lead to soreness, guarding, poor posture, and the feeling that even simple tasks take more effort than they should. This exercise helps retrain that pattern in a controlled way while sitting near the edge of a chair, which makes it much safer and easier to understand than trying to learn it standing right away. To begin, sit near the front edge of a sturdy chair with both feet flat on the floor, about hip-width apart. Your knees should be bent at a comfortable angle and your chest should be lifted, not collapsed. Place your hands lightly on your thighs or at the sides of your hips, if that helps you feel the movement more clearly. Now imagine your pelvis is a bowl and you are tipping that bowl forward slightly. As you do that, allow your chest to lean forward from the hips while keeping your back long and your shoulders relaxed. This is not a slouch and it is not a rounded reach. The spine stays long while the hinge comes from the hip joints. Only go as far as you can while keeping control. For some people, that may be a small lean at first, and that is perfectly fine. Pause briefly when you feel the hips load and the trunk stay organized, then press your feet into the floor and return to upright. Move slowly enough that you can tell the difference between a hip fold and a back collapse. That difference is the whole point of the exercise. Start with 6 to 8 repetitions. Breathe out gently as you come back up and avoid yanking yourself upright with the neck or shoulders. If you feel strain mostly in the low back, make the movement smaller and reset your posture. Done correctly, this exercise can improve how you lean, reach, stand, and lift in everyday life. And once you understand how to rise, step, stabilize, and bend more safely, the final lesson becomes even more important. How to use these movements wisely without ignoring warning signs your body should never be asked to push through. Before you begin these exercises, I want to add one important caution that I would give any older adult in clinic. These movements are meant to support strength, balance, and daily function, but they should never be pushed through warning signs. Stop right away if you feel chest pressure, severe shortness of breath, dizziness, faintness, sudden weakness, or sharp pain that does not feel like normal muscle effort. If you have had a recent fall, recent surgery, a stroke, uncontrolled blood pressure, serious heart symptoms, or a new joint injury, it is wise to speak with your physician or physical therapist before starting. And please use a sturdy chair that does not slide, preferably on a stable surface with a counter or solid support nearby. If your balance is not fully reliable yet, there is nothing weak about modifying. In fact, after 60, smart exercise is usually not about doing more. It is about doing the right movement with control, consistency, and respect for the body you have today. And that brings me to the deeper takeaway. Walking still matters. I would never dismiss that. It helps circulation, mood, endurance, and overall health. But walking alone does not always protect the variabilities that keep an older adult independent inside real life. What often matters just as much is whether you can rise from a chair without struggling, steady yourself during a turn, control your body as you sit down, and move without that quiet fear of losing balance. These chair exercises are powerful because they train the skills behind those moments. They meet the body where it is, and they give many seniors a realistic way to rebuild strength without feeling intimidated. If you do them consistently, even gently, they can help you hold on to something that matters deeply after 60. The confidence to trust your own body again. The strength you protect now is the independence you keep later. After 60, the body rarely changes all at once. More often, it changes quietly. A little less power in the legs, a little more caution when turning, a little more effort to rise, lower, catch yourself, or recover from a misstep. That is how loss of independence often begins, not with one dramatic event, but with small abilities fading in the background while daily life keeps moving forward. That is why understanding your body correctly matters so much. Walking is valuable, but so is the strength to stand up with control, the balance to steady yourself, and the coordination to move safely when you are tired, distracted, or rushed. Those abilities do not protect themselves. They have to be practiced, preserved, and respected. The good news is that meaningful change after 60 does not always require extreme effort. Very often it comes from small, consistent choices made before weakness becomes limitation. A few minutes of the right movement, better awareness, better control, better timing. That is how you protect your future one day at a time, so do not wait for your body to force the lesson. Learn it early, adjust early, start while you still can. Because after 60, the small things you do every day are often the very things that decide how safely, confidently, and independently you will live in the years ahead. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a comment with 1. If not, feel free to comment with 0. Your feedback means a lot to us. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content like this. Thank you for watching, and here's to living life on your own terms.